My friend, you have power that goes way beyond what you might be currently aware of. Something as simple as one positive interaction with even a stranger can impact that person's life and create a butterfly effect that goes on to impact millions of people's lives. That's the power that you have. So I want to encourage you to take a leap and double down on your goodness this year and reach deep down inside of yourself and pull out the courage and the determination to let your light shine. See, God made you in his likeness and image, and he made you for a reason. And some other people around you might not see the vision that you have, and that's okay. They're not supposed to. So you don't have to waste any more time worrying about what anybody else thinks. Because when you step forward confidently in the direction of your dreams, you start putting one foot in front of the other, and you don't ask for permission or approval of anybody. You just put together a plan and you start taking action. Take that next step. What happens is when you are committed and you're 100% confident, that's a foregone conclusion in your brain. That's when the people around you that maybe might have been naysayers or didn't believe, they'll back you up and they'll support you. And the support will come from nowhere and it'll come too late. You could have used it in the past when you really needed it. But it's amazing that all those things will come when you no longer need them. All the things you want in your life will show up when you no longer want them so badly. They cause you suffering. It's the very suffering that pushes them away. So you can start with small things. Random acts of kindness is a good way to go. Sorry, I'm stuttering. I just came from a wedding. Very loud for hours on end, so my ears are readjusting. I'm in a hotel room right now, Florida, a wedding I went to. So there's people that came up to me at this wedding that I didn't know. They were friends of my friends that said, like, Keith, you're Keith, this Keith I've been hearing about. And then they wanted to thank me because they said that, I'll make this very short, I'm talking about the power that you have. Many years ago, one of my very, very close friends, I started loaning him books because I love to read books. It's like Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and Cash Flow Quadrant, and all these phenomenal books that changed my life and really opened my eyes. And my friend was very ambitious at the time. I'd give him a book. I'd see him a week later, and he'd be like, I already read it. I'm like, you already read the entire book? Right? And this went on, and basically a bunch of his dreams came true, and I wasn't even aware that he held me in such high regard as a friend who was a catalyst for him that basically put the right information. I don't take any credit for any of his action, but I put the right information in his hands at the right time. And since then, he has gone on to inspire many other entrepreneurs. And it was so funny at the wedding. He's like, this is Keith. He's the reason why some things have happened. And I'm like, no. And then these guys came up to me and they're like, no, dude, you have this impact. And it's interesting. I see myself as a super connector. What do you see yourself as? My YouTube videos have helped start over 10,000 businesses, have prevented people from hurting themselves, and have made a big impact in the green industry. And I meet people that say, and you know why that is because I made videos when I didn't feel like it. I've pulled myself out of bed at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning because I felt in the bottom of my heart that I need to make this video now. I have to speak this. And so in the moment, like me, it's just me I'm by myself speaking to a camera with a microphone. What difference could that make? It's insane to think anything other than this base reality. It's very fundamental, right? But with the leverage of technology and everything we have at our disposal, these conveniences, a lot of them we've traded our rights for. That's a different conversation. it's fascinating that when you use and you leverage technology, if you have a message that you want to share with the world, or maybe you have a service business, I have a landscaping business, you can impact people in such a positive way. Here's my point. You can become, instead of like, candle is fine, a lamp post is fine, I'm talking like a lighthouse, a watchtower for people, and you don't even know it. So you have a tremendous impact on the people around you, whether you're aware of it or not. And there's people that love you and care about you, and they actually have your best interests at heart. And they love you so much that there's nothing you can do about it. Think about that. And I just really hope that I hope that you're not being hard on yourself or beating yourself up. And I hope that you're not seeing yourself in a negative light or overanalyzing or psychoanalyzing any little negative thing that you said or done, to the point where you're not giving yourself enough credit, devaluing of your goodness. So when you understand what's really at stake in the responsibility, your ability to respond, because once you have the information, right, now you got to do something, because not doing anything is a choice. Doing nothing is a choice. Sometimes that's the best thing to do, is do nothing. Choose your battles wisely. But what I'm saying here is, don't despise small beginnings, because small things can turn into big things really quickly. I placed a newspaper ad years ago in my landscaping business. I talked about this in a video. I couldn't even find my debit card. I didn't even have a company credit card yet. And I was on the phone with a newspaper company in the car with my wife. And I was like, oh, never mind, I don't have my card. My wife is like, no, you just take my credit card and run the ad. And I was like, no. She's like, no, it's fine. I'm like, oh, sorry. I took credit card, ran like a little tiny 16th of a page ad in the city newspaper. Think about that, for marketing and advertising. For my landscaping business, very simple ad. That ad, I got a phone call, and it was from elderly women who need a couple bushes trimmed, right? And then I went there, we trimmed the bushes. It was a tiny job. It was barely worth it. But the neighbor came out and did a whole property trim. Then the other neighbor needed some bushes trimmed, and this little tiny job, this elderly woman's nephew turned out to be a real estate guy and hooked me up with him, and we ended up doing like all 25 of his properties for years. He's still my client today. And then we launched the window cleaning side of the business, and then we started doing tons of window cleaning and gutter cleaning, fall cleanups, property trims, property makeovers. And then he introduced me to other clients. Then that guy hooked up with like my friend Eric Reno, who did some roofs for him. I don't often become friends with my clients, but I became friends with this client and went out on his fishing boat one time, right? And it was fun. It was cool. And we became friends. And I was like, all this happened from one little tiny newspaper ad. It feels like Don LaPree. He was this marketer back in the day. He's like, tiny little classified ads. So this type of butterfly effect thinking messes with my head. And I'm reading a book right now called You Are the Mountain. I'm in Florida. I'm hungry last night. Long flight, haven't eaten all day. And I'm like looking at some restaurants downtown Fort Myers. There's restaurants to the left and to the right. Maybe I want some seafood. I go to walk to the left and I stop. Energetically, it's like, no, don't go that way. Go to the right. But I look at my Google map and it's a much longer walk to get to those restaurants. And then I was like, no, I'm just going to go to the left. But my higher self told me, don't go that way. Go to the right. And then I stood frozen on the sidewalk for like maybe 30 seconds. I was like, am I crazy? Or should I just honor those gut feelings? So I went to the right. I honored it, right? And I ended up downtown, and there was like a party outside. There's hundreds of people everywhere, and I found this amazing restaurant, and I ate there, and the food was amazing. And so I've become interested in, like, it's just like an experiment. What little tiny micro decisions affect literally reality, affect everything. So I said, if something is insignificant, as if you walking to the left or the right, how significant is it? I said, well, you can actually do the recapitulation meditation and you can go back through your whole life. And I literally, if I go back through my whole life, there is like one little tiny micro decision, I can think of it right now, that made the difference or not of me eventually meeting and marrying and being with for 14 years my wife. All the way back down to one little tiny micro decision that at the time it didn't seem like anything, and it changed my entire destiny. And my wife is she's basically my rock, has been a huge part of the reason why I've been able to make videos like this and inspire 80 million views online. Podcast, 750,000 downloads now, 155,000 subscribers on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. So I ask myself these higher questions like, is all this ordained before the foundations of the heaven and earth? Were you ordained with a message, a mission, and a mandate? Or is it a privilege to even be able to participate in what God is going to do anyways? So this is the answer I came up with. Well, I know you've been giving your all, but you've been given gifts and callings, and they come without repentance, which means there are people who have gifts, really phenomenally great people, and there's people who have gifts, aren't so great people, that are complete narcissists, right? The gifts are still true. So what are you going to do with the gifts that God gave you? And if you don't use it, you lose it. The story in the Bible where basically it's the story about the talents. If you have a gift and you bury it, and you don't do anything with it, and you're too scared to pull the courage out of yourself and start taking some action, it will be taken away from you, and the opportunity will be given to someone else. Just like if you have an idea to invent something and you don't, and you watch it pop up in the marketplace in 6 months or a year, and you're like, what? I thought that thing up, and that's crazy, right? So nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. Who's going to be the executive and take action on it? Is it going to be you? Because if you don't, somebody else will. And this is the great news. None of this is neither right or wrong, nor good or bad. It's just relative to the experience you're having and others are having of you. And that's all it is. And that's the good news. But now that you have the information and you know, it's almost like double jeopardy to not put together a plan and take action, because it's like you've seen. I had a friend, Dave, once. I was talking about responsibility. It's like if you help somebody or somebody helps you, or picks somebody up and takes them to a place higher than what their feet can touch the ground, that's beyond what they can do today.
More of the Untrapped Podcast right after this.
Do you need some serious help focusing on your service business this year? Would you like to go live in a private group coaching environment that's focused every other week with myself and special guest experts who have built multiple 6, 7, and even 8-figure businesses? If so, I would like to extend a special invitation to consider joining my new private group coaching program called the Untrapped Alliance. And we're already 2 months at the time of this recording, 2 months in. And for instance, last week we had special guest Steve DeHunt. My friend Steve has a $7 million landscaping business with 60 employees and 8 sales guys. They have 5:30 a.m. sales trainings every Tuesday morning. And Steve came on for 2 hours and he taught our private group how to build your own sales presentation on an iPad. So when you sit down with your customer, you can show them critical mistakes to avoid as the customer. You educate them and you show them pictures of your work. you gain trust and build authority. And by the time you're done with this presentation, the customers will see it. If you do great quality work, the customers will see it as a risk to go with anybody else. And Steve was gracious enough to walk us through this entire process and describe how he has built a multi-million-dollar business specifically and how to build rapport and trust and authority with clients quickly. And he's done this through trial and error for the past 25 years. He's mastered it. This guy, you'd have to pay him $1,500 an hour to even get an hour coaching call with him. And he got on for 2 hours in our live private group, and the members loved it. I loved it. It was incredible. He had me in tears at one point because he was talking about how here's a guy who nothing was handed to him. He reached in the trenches and almost lost everything in 2008 and 9 and built his business back up from nothing. A few weeks ago, we had another guest on, Dan Plata, the home service CFO. He taught us how to hire employees and how to screen and vet them out and the mindset around growing and scaling a business. But he also taught us how to understand our numbers and profit and loss statements and dial in your numbers strategically so you get crystal clarity on the math in your business. And he made it fun. This week coming up, we have special guest, my friend Eric Reno, who's built a $10,000,000 roofing empire. And he's going to teach us his marketing strategies of how to become 5 Mile famous. He goes all in when it comes to marketing and advertising. He's going to show us his best kept secrets and practices and hold nothing back. So I don't take this lightly. I mean, I feel very thankful that these people I know are willing to come on because they respect and trust me to share with you and me everything that they're doing. They can't share everything, but they can within an hour or two share a lot. I mean, this is invaluable information, and it's a private group coaching setting that is not garbage social media. I mean, this is a private Zoom calls. And you get access to all the replays when you join up. So this is a monthly paid membership group. And so you get in, you pay. Right now, the introductory investment is only $97 a month. So it's about $50 per call. And so if you could get in and learn some stuff that could make you an extra, I don't know, you say the number, 20, 50, 100, 150 grand this year. I don't know the size of your business, but the stuff that we're learning, if implemented, I can't make you any promises, but if implemented, is hyper valuable. So this program costs me money to put together. I pay for the software, the systems. I have a media team that I pay that helped me put this together. And so I have hard costs involved here, but I love doing this. So if you're interested, open up your browser right now and type in keithkalfas.com/alliance. And I'll see you inside of the next call. And remember, you get access to the replays immediately as soon as you sign up. You'll be part of the group. See you there.
This is Untrapped with Keith Kalfas.
What's real and doable for them. Just hang with me for a second. Their feet lose contact with the ground, and if you let go, they fall back to where they were. So my buddy Dave, I'll close this loop. He basically said, he goes, no, because if you reach down and you help somebody else or somebody helps you or something, they get to, for a second, see what's on the other side, right? Or what's past that mountain. And then they go back down and they've had the vision, And I love this because you can stand on the shoulders of giants and you can read amazing books and autobiographies by successful people that live in their imagination who have been able to change the world and make it a better place. And so you can just be a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal husband or wife, or a phenomenal parent, or a phenomenal service business owner. You can start a blog online and inspire people, or you don't have to become freaking Jeff Bezos or Steve Jobs or Elon Musk, right? And I can't imagine the level of sacrifice unless that's part of what's truly rooted in your value hierarchy that makes you truly fulfilled, that higher calling. What are you comparing yourself to with the measuring stick of success? What I mean by that is, once you realize that you're running your own race, and this is strictly between you and God, you start asking, how can I develop myself to deploy myself into the purpose that was mandated for me. Not just go do something that makes a whole bunch of money because I saw Tom or Joe do it and I want to be significant like them. I want to feel important and loved too, so I want to make a whole bunch of money. Because if the reason why you say you want to make a big difference in the world and you want to do all these great things, this is the scary part, is rooted in a fear of unlove or resentment, or it's rooted in trying to get the attention of people who you hope will love you, it could be a scary path where you end up at the top of success one day and it's not all it's cracked up to be. You might possibly, it's like you climb a mountain and you forgot to take your water bottle with you, or like the most important things, and you have to climb back down to go pick up the shit that you left behind because you were too much in a frickin' hurry. And I think it's putting the cart before the horse. I just know people who have put their careers and their work and money and success and accolades before other things that, I mean, this is according to my value hierarchy. I'm not saying I'm right. Putting things in the wrong order have a cost, and sometimes a very hard cost. See, you notice I'm talking about this without getting into any specifics, because you know what your specifics are. But I implore you to look deeper and say, where is the true value in my life? Where is the thing that makes me feel the most deeply fulfilled? And I can probably promise you it's not just money or something like that. But my friend Joshua Latimer, he says something amazing. You know, if God made him to be really successful so he can make a whole bunch of money so he can impact other entrepreneurs and coach people and give money away. I won't say too much of his business, but he said things to me on the phone before, like just little experimental projects that he does to help people that he doesn't publicize. I'll just kind of stop right there. I'm like, what? You're amazing, bro. You like, how would you even think to be such a giver and a contributor, like impacting people's lives? So he inspires me. Who do you have that inspires you? So anyways, if you're down in the dumps by chance, I encourage you, random acts of kindness. If you give somebody who's homeless, give them $20, give them a $20 bill. Say, God bless you. Walk away. Don't tell anybody about it. And if you might have a negative thought in your mind, like, oh, what are they going to do with the money? That's between them and God, and what you did was between you and God. Or donate to something, or help somebody close to you, or buy somebody in line. I'm not trying to publicize what I did, but I was at Chipotle getting a carryout for a wife and I. And behind me was a guy who, he looked like he had just gotten off work, and I looked back and he looked me in the eyes, just kind of like a cold stare, and I smiled. He didn't smile back. He was just like in like grind mode or something. I was like, oh yeah? So when I got to the checkout, I was like, hey, pay for his food too. Like that, in a different, obviously separate bags. But I paid for his food, right? And then I just walked out real quick. And I walked out towards my truck, and my wife was waiting. She's just scrolling on her phone. And I looked back, and the guy behind me, he was like, hey, bro. He's like, he held the food up in his bag. He's like, bro, thank you. Thank you. And I looked back, and we both smiled at the same time. It was the biggest smile ever. And in that moment, complete stranger, there was a currency more valuable than any money. It was a feeling of abundance and love. Like in that moment, I didn't even know this guy. He was my brother. It was like we both felt it. All of a sudden, it released all this endorphins in my body where I felt so abundant. And I told my wife, I was like, I just paid for that guy's food. And look, he smiled. Look. And my wife is like, that's awesome. That's so cool. And then she smiled. And then we smiled all the way home, right? And I felt good. I didn't even do it for that reason. It was just a byproduct. And so one thing you can do is if you're financially a little bit tight and you see some people in a restaurant, maybe you shouldn't judge anybody, but let's just say you see a family that, like a whole family eating, and you get the sense, I'm going to pay for their whole dinner, complete strangers. And you just say, hey, put that on the tab, right? Or you see, I remember one time I saw the pastor at a church I used to go to eating dinner with his family, Olive Garden. And I was not crushing it financially back then. And I just had this feeling, I was like, pay for their dinner. And it was not cheap, and I paid for the whole dinner. And I walked out and I felt a little bit of anxiety. It was a rush. Like, what did I just do? I was like, I got this. It was a great feeling. Another time, it was a whole family dinner at a restaurant with my wife's family, all my in-laws. And I went and I snuck to the waitress and I paid for the whole table. And they're like, you did what? Thank you, Keith. And I didn't even do it for a thank you. I just wanted to know what it felt like to be the caretaker, the provider, the one who pays the bill, right? Because when you're growing up and you're just a broke kid, and there's always somebody who's paying the bill for you, and I wanted to know what it feels like to be the one who can front the bill. Another thing that's really amazing, I know this is money things, but if you ever get a chance to go out to eat, it could just be lunch with somebody who is really successful, or more successful than you are, but sometimes really successful, especially the millionaires. Get the ticket before they can and buy their food. And don't say anything. And watch how they respond. They almost, most of the time, they can't even handle it emotionally. You'll see a different person come out. And I've asked them, because I'm pretty open, I'm like, when's the last time somebody bought you dinner? Like, well, I don't even know. Because they're rich and they're always paying for everybody's dinner all the time. They're used to it. They expect it. Other people expect it. And so when you buy them dinner, they almost don't even know how to handle it because they feel out of place and uncomfortable. They might even become insecure because it's almost like, is this taking my power away? Because sometimes they're getting used by other people. My friend who's a music artist, Hatch, he's a very brilliant guy. I told him that, and he told me, who was it? I forgot. This really successful guy. I think he's like famous or something. He told the story of how he always bought everybody dinner all the time. He paid for everything all the time because he's rich, right? And everybody expected it. But this one time at the dinner table, everybody's out to eat at this really nice restaurant, and his wife goes, "You not going to pay for dinner this time, just this once." He's like, "What do you mean? I always pay. I have to pay. I always pay." She's like, "You are not going to pay this time, okay?" Okay, so the waitress brought out separate checks for everybody at the table. And he just paid his bill, him and his wife, and then they signed the check, and he stayed calm and kept to himself. And everybody else was getting their separate check, and they looked at their checks, and everybody at the table was looking around like, you know what I mean? Like, So everybody had to pay their own bill. And when everybody got up, normally everybody would be shaking the rich guy's hand and giving him a hug and high fives. Almost nobody even said goodbye to him. Everybody was really awkward, and everybody just kind of left the restaurant, and it was a totally different vibe. And this guy was like, whoa, all because they had to pay their bill? So there are some repercussions that come with being extremely successful. Can you handle them? It's just the success tax. The success tax. It's interesting. And people that sometimes that you want their love the most can become nasty if they see you becoming very successful, especially financially successful. And you have to learn all the skills of how to deal with that, right? So I'm talking about some of this stuff because it could be some of the roadblocks that come up that are these deeply embedded subconscious pathologies in our nervous system that can inhibit us from doubling down on our goodness and becoming the version of ourselves that we dream of becoming, like successful. And I think I'm complete. I just yawned. That my yawn means my subconscious mind is reshuffling the deck and my nervous system relaxes. I'm like, I'm complete. Everything is good. So I'm fired up. Look at this. You probably don't get to see me dressed up this often. Look at my shoes. My wife likes to dress me. I should just wear this in every video. I just dropped a couple $1,000 at Banana Republic, of all places. Anyways, that's stuff you don't care about. All right, much honor, love, and respect to you. Check all the links below. Subscribe if you haven't already. If you like this type of content, let me know below. Also, if you made it all the way to the end of the video, I want you to put in the comments. I do this sometimes. This is a full comment. Double down on your goodness in 2025.